Hey, what's up, guys? Joshua here with Ignite PPC. If you're new to the channel, I just want to let you know what we specialize in doing is we take wholesalers, real estate investors, and flippers to over 100K per month just with inbound marketing in their business. We've even scaled some companies to 250, 500K per month, all with inbound marketing, right? So in this specific video, what we're going to be talking about is one of the most make or break things for your business, and that is market selection, right? This is one of the biggest questions that I get time and time again when individuals. This is specifically for virtual wholesaling, and flipping. Is what market should I be in when I'm going to do PPC? So if you have decided, hey, we're going to start doing inbound, we have a budget set aside, we have kind of a plan. The next question always becomes, well, where do I market, right? And so I'm going to show you guys the before I get into the targeting, how big of a impact this can make in your business and why it creates such a big impact. If you're newer to the business and maybe you've only been doing this for 6 months, a year, or so on, and you haven't really thought about this is a great video for you to learn how to analyze markets, how to understand where deals are more likely to get done for bigger assignment fees and ultimately sell quicker as well, right? So I'm going to jump over to the Google Doc and I'm just going to kind of roll through it with you guys really quick and share, some of the bullet points that we're going to cover in the targeting. So just stay tuned. Okay, we're here. So before I show you guys the targeting and the explanation behind this, I just want to explain what we're after, right? So there's really three things that we're after when we're trying to target specific markets, really in any marketing channel in our business. Three things: easier sellers to negotiate with. So you want sellers that, are easy to close, can get them to sign on the dotted line without too much resistance. We want bigger deal sizes. So obviously if we can increase our deal sizes, it leaves a hell of a lot more money to be made for us. And then deals that sell faster. So decreasing our cash conversion cycle, the amount of time it gets to be paid, right? So if we can do all three of these things, so if we can position ourselves where it's easier to negotiate the deals, we have bigger deal sizes, and we can get deals that sell faster, ultimately we're going to have a much better time, right? So we're going to jump over to Reventure. This is the tool that I use for this research. It's a pretty cheap tool. It's like, I think, $30 a month. I highly recommend it. And so as you can see, this is basically a heat map of the United States. And right now this is set up for just home value, and it's selected by metro, right? So I'm just going to start by selecting states so I can look at this on a state view. And then what I like to look at initially as my baseline for establishing whether or not this is a healthy market is home value growth year over year. So this is basically appreciation or depreciation, right? So if you think about it, let's say we're looking at the entire country here, and you can see that we have Wisconsin appreciating at 4% year over year, and we have Florida depreciating at almost 5.5% year over year. We want to think about how this actually affects the market, and how sellers are going to behave, how that's going to affect our deals, how it's going to affect how fast we can sell things, stuff like that, right? So the way to look at this is in an appreciating market where values are going up, two things happen, right? If you're selling to flippers, there's more confidence in the market from the flipper who's going to be buying your wholesale deal that they're going to be able to sell the deal on the up and up, right? There's less risk for them. They're more than likely going to make more money rather than less money, so they can make you a better offer, which means that you have an easier time maybe giving the seller a slightly better offer, right? You don't have to be as conservative. Number two is that when home values are increasing year over year, there's times where homeowners do not keep up with the value of their home. And so they don't have a true understanding of how much their home is actually appreciated from the last year to this year, right? So the other thing is that a lot of homeowners use Zillow as that indicator of what their home was worth. And Zillow doesn't always keep up with this, and it's not always accurate, right? So an example of this is, let's say a home was worth $150,000 last year, but this year it's now worth $170,000. Well, that seller, maybe they were asking $120,000 last year and they still want that number this year. We have now a spread to be able to work with, and it's a lot easier, right? Versus if we're in Florida and the home prices have gone down 5.5% year over year, it's like, okay, last year it was worth $150,000 when the seller wanted $120K. Now it's worth, call it $142,000, and they still want $120K. So it's much harder to negotiate with them, right? So for a baseline, just to make sure we're getting easier sellers to negotiate deals with, is we want to be in an appreciating market, right? So what I like to do is in reventure, if you go over here to the filter section, take out pretty much all these filters except you want to leave population, leave home value, and then we're going to add in days on market here. We'll talk about that in a second. But for a home value growth year over year, you can see we have it selected. This is like the baseline filter. I'm going to say I only want to see markets that have a 0%, year over year appreciation. This is basically markets that are either flat or are doing well year over year. So it looks like right now the best markets in the country are going to be, based on the state for appreciation: Wisconsin, Illinois, Kentucky, New York, Ohio, Iowa. Some really solid states. Okay. Now let's take it a step further and let's look at, okay, well, how do we, if we're, this is a lot of area, right? Like we don't really necessarily want to market to, Montana. We don't want to really market some of these areas. Where do we actually want to place our ad dollars within these markets, right? So the next piece of this comes down to, if we're looking at this on a metro level, what areas in the country fit this on a metro level, right? So you'll see now that some of these states, such as like California and Washington, they didn't fit this criteria on a statewide level, but they fit it on a metro level in some areas, right? So the second piece of this is like, okay, if we are going to, let me just fix this here. There we go. So 0 to basically the dark red stuff is like the best stuff in the country right now in terms of appreciation. So if you get a deal in Peoria, I'm sure you can sell it pretty easy. It's a hot market. You get a deal in, Chicago, Ottawa, Illinois, hot market. Let me take a look here. What else is super hot? Sheboygan, Wisconsin, 7.5% year over year, hot market, right? So going into this is like, hey, we're looking at the metro level. Well, what else needs to make sense for us to be able to do deals here, right? Number one is going to be, it can be population. Some people don't care about population. I personally don't really care about population because if we have a nice house at a discount in an appreciating market, more than likely we're going to be able to sell it regardless of where it's at. And, you guys can see the underwriting video if you guys want to get some context on like how we sell deals in small markets like that. But pretty much we'll leave the population thing alone for right now. Home value I do care about. I want to make sure that my spreads are like at least 20 grand. So I like to work in areas where home values are at least an average of 150K, right? That's very minimum. And then the last piece here, and this is probably the most important filter on here, aside from appreciation, and that's days on market. So days on market is how long it takes for a deal to sell on market after it's been listed. And in a perfect world, we want to keep this under 70, right? So you can see that these are everything that's left here fits this criteria, meaning that it's 12,000 to 20 million people in population, home value of 150K to 3 million, appreciating year over year, and days on market under 70 days. Now, what's crazy is that if you look at this, none of Florida is in that. It doesn't fit any of this, data, or it doesn't fit the data filter at all. Very little of Texas, right? Both Florida and Texas. Same thing with Arizona. Like the major metros in Florida, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, they've been struggling. They haven't been so hot. There's still markets in California, like Central California, that looks really solid. Mexicali, this market's been on fire actually, just El Centro. You got this market up here in, this is Yakima, smaller market, right? So you can see here, guys, that there's not a lot of, actual stuff happening in terms of like good market data on the west side of the country. Now, this is not to say that deals cannot be found and cannot be had. They can definitely be, they're definitely findable, doable. And like if we go down to, let's say we go to a county level, this is what it looks like on a county level, right? So like we can see all these counties specifically. There's still not that much out here. You can still do deals out here. It's just, if we're looking at this again of easier sellers to negotiate with, bigger deal sizes, deals that sell faster, well, we want to be in areas that fit this criteria, right? You can still do deals in these other markets by all means. There's nothing holding you back. It's just you're going to be potentially fighting an uphill battle. The worst that, let me just take these filters off really quick. The worst this is, so if your market is depreciating really, really fast, like let's say, let's take a look at Tampa Metro, 6.2% down year over year. You're fighting an uphill battle. You're basically having to, grind against sellers to get a deal, and then once you sell it to a flipper or you list it as an ovation, you're still fighting an uphill battle because the market doesn't want to pay top dollar for your deal, right? So if you look at, like, for example, California in this example, there's some markets here where it's like, okay, let's see if appreciation is bad, but maybe days on market is still good. Where it's like, okay, these are declining markets, but days on market is still decent, right? So market is correcting or softening. Might be a little bit harder to negotiate with people, but once you get that deal, it's not going to be impossible to sell. So there's still, a handful of markets that fit that criteria in the country. You can see, like, we have now Atlanta, Georgia on here. We got Houston and Dallas. It's just going to be a little bit harder to negotiate. Once you get that deal, though, you will be able to sell it, right? But again, we're after easier sellers to negotiate with, bigger deal sizes, and deals that sell faster. I'm looking at being in appreciating markets, right? So here, this is, again, all of the markets in the country that fit this criteria of $12,000 to $20 million, 20 million in population, 150K average home value, and 70 market appreciating at least 0% year over year, and 70 days on market or less. Now, the thing is that these markets, you can see here, we got a lot of areas kind of spread out in Minnesota, Iowa, Chicago, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, right? We get a lot of red in this area generally. And we got, some good stuff in California. And again, if I'm looking at, hey, what's actually moving, what states actually have stuff moving, which this is surprising to see under 70 days of market. I want to target states where there's a lot of that red on the metro level, right? I want to target states where there's a lot of red on the metro level, right? I don't want to just pick the metros. I want to target the entire state. So for me, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, cool, I'm virtually wholesaling. Based on this data, I'm going to do Minnesota, I'm going to do Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, Kentucky. And then maybe I'm going to pick out some of these. I'm going to pick out some of these metros that I like. Like, I'll do Central California, right? I'll do Raleigh, Durham. This is Greensboro. I'll do Greensboro. I'll do the Knoxville Metro, and so on. So, guys, this is kind of like the method that we use to create targeting. If you're just looking at, hey, I want to be in markets where deals sell quicker, and I'm okay with dealing with like an uphill battle on the negotiation side, because sellers are a little bit harder to deal with. You can still do, like, Georgia's a decent market. North Carolina is still a good market if you do the entire state. California, right? It's not doing bad, but it's just, again, you're going to have a harder time negotiating with sellers. So if we go back to this, say appreciating year over year, 0% plus, days on market, 70 days or less, population doesn't matter to me, but you can do, if you want, you can pick whatever you want. You can do 50K. I think this is a underwriting issue, not so much a market selection issue. Pick whatever you want, and then average home value at 150K plus, right? So if you do these things, if you select markets that fit this criteria, you are going to get easier sellers to negotiate deals with, bigger deal sizes, and deals that will sell faster. Because again, sellers won't keep up with the value of their home, right? It's going to allow you to be able to list it and get a better offer on the market. And your deals are going to sell faster because deals are in demand there compared to other markets, right? So, guys, this is a phenomenal way to look at how you want to create your targeting. This is actually something that we will do and sit down with all of our clients one-on-one with, and build their strategy around. Is where depending on the type of the business that they want, whether they're local, whether they're virtual, how to be in the best markets, right? How to be in the best areas where you're actually going to get the most bang for your buck. If you're local, we do it on a zip code level, right? So we'll say if we're going to do Chicago, it's like, bam, we can see on a zip code level what is actually fitting this criteria, time and time again, and then we'll export this into a list. I forget where the export thing is, but it's on here. So anyways, if you guys are interested in, talking to our team about what a strategy looks like for inbound marketing, and, you're wanting to ultimately talk about how to transition from maybe outbound to doing fully inbound in your business, or you're already doing, inbound and you're not getting great results, you can, in the description of the video, click the link there, book a call with my team and myself, and we'll go through, we'll show you this entire strategy, customize it specifically for you, and set you up for the highest likelihood of success. So guys, I hope you guys got a lot of value out of the video. I'll see you in the next one.